Hey yo, this is Dash, and I wanted to come and talk to you guys about the Super Bowl cook, and more specifically about me slicing up the lamb and slicing up the brisket. I know I have a few videos out there of detailed videos. There's one in particular of me talking about what I do and how I do things with brisket, so feel free to check out that video. But what I want to do in this video, I'm going to do a bit of a voiceover of what I was thinking, what I was doing while I was doing it. I've had a few questions about the slicing of the lamb as well as about the brisket. So what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to do a voiceover and talk to you about my thought process when I sliced up the lamb and the brisket. So let's get into it.
Get ready.
Alright, so here I'm showing you the lamb. You see it looks pretty good in that container there. Sorry about the camera string.
Many hours later.
Alright, so like I said, everyone was up in the kitchen and up and around in the kitchen, so I couldn't film a whole bunch. I had to end up doing this without any sound. So this is the first lamb. All I do was cut them in half the short way, and then I cut them in half again, or slice them or I cut it the long way, then cut it into slices the short way. There you go. Check out the smoke ring. Here's the second piece of lamb. And whoop, more slow-mo. Almost dropped it, but who cares? Alright, so now the lamb's done. All you guys who always tell me about putting the wet paper towel underneath, you saw that there. There is the jus. I just poured the jus from the pan into those containers. It's brisket time. Alright, so this is the brisket board. It is, or can be found at the website that was linked below. Now, this is the first brisket. This is one of the briskets that was for a single order. I'm just cutting this brisket into pieces. You saw me separate the point from the flat. Now I am separating or slicing up the flat, and this flat was a little overdone. That's why there's some shredding left on the cutting board. Now I'm cutting up the point, cut it into my long strips, and then I cut it into the short strips, basically to cut against the grain or with the grain, and then I cut it against the grain on the short strips like I am doing here against the grain. Just makes it easier, you know, better bite. And I cut it in small pieces so that people won't grab so much of it. This was for like a small dinner party when someone's home. Now, hopefully you saw that. I was actually capturing some of the brisket, like those drippings or the end pieces that were left on the cutting board, so that I can make some brisket beans. If you guys would like to, there should be a video up in the top corner there of when I made some brisket beans before. Here you see I am capturing or taking out the jus from the brisket in that fat separator that you see there, which is linked in the description below. There, me pouring the jus into the fat separator. I'll let that sit while I'm slicing the brisket. This brisket was for another single order, and this was the biggest brisket that I had. And I'm just trying to take my time and cut it up. And again, and I don't know if it was just the brisket or what, but it was a little overdone. That's why I started to flake apart like that. And also, the brisket was warm. When you cut brisket when it's warm, it tends to fall apart a little bit more than if it were, if it had set and cooled a little, chilled a little longer. Mr. Gibson, that was your brisket. So those are the two single orders. Now these next two briskets are the order that I combined for the 12-pound order. Total raw weight was about 24 pounds. And after I cut them up into individual, or after cooking, they were about 12 pounds. I don't really weigh them. I just go by the initial weight in the beginning. So you see I separate both points and flats. You see the brisket I'm slicing now is the smaller of the two, and that is the flat. And I cut it into 4 sections when I'm doing an event. Like if I know for sure they are having like a small catering event. The reason I do this is the smaller pieces. Smaller pieces will allow for less waste, and people won't be so greedy to pull so much of the brisket and put it on their plate. Had I left these in full slices, you can see the length of that brisket there. If I left it in full slices, someone would be compelled to take 1 or 2 slices, which can end up being about a half a pound of brisket, and that's just too much when you're trying to make the brisket stretch, especially when it comes to the better pieces, which are the, in my opinion, the point. And there's less of the point than there is of the flat. And if somebody's taking all of it, that's just gonna not leave some for anyone else. Alright, so I changed the camera position there so you can get a closer look. And I'm just separating everything out. Again, I cut the brisket, the point and the flat with the grain and then against the grain. So there's the against the grain cut. And that is like basically a big bite-sized piece of each of these meats, so that it'll stretch and you'll be able to do what you need to do with it a lot, And there you have it. These pieces that were left on the cutting board, I ended up using them, like I said, in the brisket beans. And there you see the points and the flats separated for my big catering event. Okay, so there you have it. Hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that was insightful. Unfortunately, I wanted to do this and do a voiceover over the video when it went out originally. I just didn't have the time to make it happen. So hopefully this works out and it gives you better insight as to what I was thinking when I was slicing up the brisket and the lamb. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave your questions down below in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Okay. So, and what are you gonna say?
Make sure you subscribe.
Okay.
Give a thumbs up.
All right. So let's try this again. It's subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give a thumbs up if you like. Bye.
Alright, so that was my daughter. She always wants to help whenever she catches me filming the video. So just like she said, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. If you like what you saw, if you learned something, please leave me a thumbs up down below. And leave a comment, if you have any other questions. And I'll see you next time.